Hi there. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to you, wherever in the world you are. Welcome to the Full 100, TFH as we call it. Today is Monday, the 27th of April. For us in the UK, we're in week 4, beginning of week 4 of lockdown. And today's topic, guys, is basically concerning fake news. It's basically fake news and its destructive capacity. I'm choosing to do this topic today because the UK, Boris Johnson, as you know, was back to work today, Monday. The UK is now talking quite loudly about the unlock, about going back to coming out of the unlock situation. And I believe that we're actually even talking about it right now because of fake news. I'll explain what I mean by that. We're talking about it right now because of what we're seeing in America. What we're seeing in America, we're seeing people are protesting. People are running up and down the streets, Trump believers, fake news believers, so Trump's people who believe you can inject disinfectants and you can put UV lights inside of your body. These are the people running around on the streets right now. But for some reason, these people still affect us. Because I know for a fact, if Trump wasn't in power in America right now, those people would not be running around on the streets. And we won't be talking about lockdown so loudly now. So, guys, this is the reason I'm doing this show, okay? So, without further ado, let's get to it. Right. I want to start with a correction. Those of you who saw my show regarding how this is affecting the ethnic minority, the show was titled "When the World Has a Flu, Ethnic Minorities When the World Catches a Flu, the Ethnic Minority Have Pneumonia." On that video, I made a statement saying I don't believe there's any ailments, any illnesses that excludes one race. This was off the back of those who were telling people in America, the black prophets, the black preachers telling people in America that they were exempt from coronavirus, from COVID-19. So I made that statement. I've since corrected myself. I actually knew the answer to it. We all know the answer to it. But funny enough, and I'll tell you the answer to it. The answer to it is sickle cell anemia. There is actually an illness that doesn't get anybody else other than one race. Guess what that race is? Again, is us. So even though the context I said what I said in that I said it in the context of where do they get off telling anybody that they're exempt from it. And I said my statement was basically saying I don't think there's any illness that bypasses any race. Funny enough, I was wrong. There is sickle cell anemia, which does bypass every other race but ourselves. So it comes back down to what I was saying. If you really are paying attention and are thinking for your own self, if you hear someone on TV, those of you in America watching this, or those of you in the UK who believe you eat dumpling and ackee and saltfish, and because of that, you're not going to get this virus because you don't eat KFC and McDonald's like the rest of us, that you're not going to get this. Please try and remember that the only illness that we can actually say doesn't get anybody else actually gets us. We're the only ones it gets, guys. So, correction, there is an illness that bypasses every other race other than one. And that illness is sickle cell anemia. So again, we're the losers in that. So that alone should have made us not, or should make us not believe crap like that. Okay. So apologies over. Like I said, I'm always going to apologize if I get something wrong or come back on another show and correct myself. And that's a true testament of a solid platform, a reliable platform, if you like. So as I said, today, we've been seeing Boris back. We've been hearing talk about going back to it's not normality. I mean, no one's saying to go back to normality, but they're talking about coming out of this lockdown. I'm worried. I'm happy and worried. Happy because we are now starting to do some bits and pieces, but there is a lot that we're not doing. We're not spraying the streets. I haven't been tested. Have you? As of Thursday of last week, the 23rd, I believe that would have been, we were told that we now have ramped up to a capacity of testing up to 10 million people. However, there's 65 million of us. So I'm glad it sounds like Boris Johnson and his tighter lot. It sounds like they're being very careful. And I think they're being very careful because he suffered from it himself, and he probably saw the misery that this was causing. I believe if the Prime Minister himself hadn't suffered from this, I believe we'll be talking a totally different language today. I don't want to put words in his mouth, but I truly, firmly believe that we'll be talking a different language today. So, guys, the papers have started, the press have started. Although it wasn't the press that came up with what I'm about to discuss with you guys, it was a newspaper that came up with it. Let me see. It was a Telegraph, guys, that came up with this. Okay, but I've found out today again that even though at the beginning of this it was all we are all in this together, we forgot about Brexit, we forgot about Remainers and Leavers, we forgot about Labour, we forgot about Tories, until we started to look at their policies, and then we can see that actually what runs in their blood is what they're actually carrying out in terms of policy. So Trump's madness that runs in his blood showed in his policy. Angela Merkel, her common sense showed in the policy. Trudeau in Canada, his common sense showed through his policy. Jacinda Ardern, say no more. So until we saw how their thinking ran, their policies, there really was no left or right. We was all in this together. However, what's been happening lately is America showing us there is an extreme right wing by the madness we're seeing over there. These guys are now abusing nurses. They're attacking nurses. They're calling nurses fakes and actors. And that's now here. If you saw my show on Friday, I exposed people like Kate Shemirani or whatever a silly name is. These people are now watching the Americans and they want to be as crazy as them. So I do hope they drink the disinfectant that Trump has advised them to drink. I do hope they put UV lights up their bodies like Trump has advised, because they're taking all the policies and behaving the same way over it. So these people are bringing this stuff over it. Now the newspapers have now told us that, surprise, surprise, we are still in two categories. But they're calling it two tribes now. So they're calling it those who accept, the acceptors and the resistors. The acceptors and the resistors. So no more Remainers and Leavers. We're now acceptors or resistors. Which side do you fall on? I know I fall into the we're all in one together side. I don't see acceptors and believers. I think acceptors and resistors. Those who are resisting are being misled. They're being misled by fake news. Now, it's shocking, really. So basically what they're saying is they polled, the Telegraph, apparently King's College ran a poll. Now, why King's College wants to know that? Why do we actually need to know that? Why do we need to know who's in what camp? Because this is the beginning of division. At a time where we're supposed to be all in it together, this is the beginning of division. And it starts very, very, very subtly. And it's very subtle. You might not notice it. It's like a side thing. However, already is making you identify or want to identify what side you're on. So apparently 48% of us accept. Apparently 42% of us support. And then apparently, that makes up. And apparently 9% are resistors. So we have that hardcore 9%, which I think are the hardcore 30% that support Trump. The hardcore mad people, which Kate Shemirani and her followers will fall into. So whatever you put in place, they're going to resist it anyway, as long as it's not one of their right-wing people. I mean, these are the sort of people that if you put in place a policy that says anyone who's not white should leave the country, they'll all be up for it. So 9% resistors, 42% support, and 48% accept. Now, why is this key? This is key because of the next phase we're going into, people. We're going into a phase where we're tracking, where we have to test and track now, okay? It's about the 3 T's now. Testing, tracking, and treatment. Testing to see who has it, who's had it, and who hasn't had it. Tracking, if you have it, to track all those who you've come in contact with. And treatment, which we don't have yet, actually the actual treatment for it. However, treatment is obviously the ventilators and everything else in hospital. So now we're going into those phases, guys. And I just want us to be aware that when we go into this next phase, you're bound to get a new form of fake news. One that will definitely come to mind, guys, okay, is the tracking app that they are introducing. The NHS is going to introduce it, but the British Army are going to be running the Bluetooth side of it. So basically how it works is this, okay? We all got Bluetooth, right? Now, if I've got it, for example, let's say I didn't know I had it, and my test day is tomorrow. I get tested tomorrow. I've got it. Or they see that I've had it. Let's say they see I've had it. Yeah, because that's a better example. Let's say they see I've had it. I had it like a month ago, but they can see from the antibodies inside me that I've had it and it's passed. What they then do, the tracking, the Bluetooth side of things, is it then registers my phone as someone who's had it, and they're able to then, so retrospective tracking, okay? So retrospective tracking. They can go back and see where I've been, who I've come in contact with. But on moving forward, is if you got tested and you've got the actual virus, or they see your temperature's high, or you might be suspected of having it, then the Bluetooth actually tracks those who you've come in contact with. They are then contacted. And to me, if you listen to my show last week and you listen to my show this week, it's going to be a very different show, because I go with common sense. I go with the times. Last week and the week before, it was criticizing these people that were not doing the right things. This week is going to be about making sure that they are doing what they say they're going to do, which is now the right thing. They are now saying the right things, but I still got to hold them to account and make sure that these things are being done. Now, the tracking situation is vital, because, guys, we can't be coming out of lockdown when we're still getting 4,000 new cases per day. 4,000 new cases a day. We need to be round about the 1,000 new cases a day from the heights that we were at. But 4,000. Think of a ship. Think of think of a cruise ship. I mean, the cruise ships hold 4,000 people. So think of all the people on a huge cruise ship, 4,000 strong. Think of all those people going to hospital every single day. Those are huge numbers. So my worry is that we put these things in place before we actually see the number. But listen to Boris Johnson's speech today, and it sounds like he's on it. It sounds like he wasn't trying to pander to those who want to come out now and we've had enough. Yes, let's start putting into place the way we're going to come out of this. I've got a clip to show you about how Germany is coming out of this. I've got a clip also from Senegal, an African country, to show you what they're doing. But before I show you those clips, have a quick look at Boris Johnson's. I just got a brief clip to show you of Boris Johnson's speech this morning. Have a look.
The biggest risk to the economy and to life was a second spike in the pandemic. Our political editor Gary Gibbon has this report.
Back after his brush with death, the Prime Minister claimed much was going right with the government's strategy and made only one apology: for absence.
Good morning. I'm sorry I've been away from my desk for much longer than I would have liked.
The Prime Minister touched on his personal experience as he gave his view of where we were in the crisis.
If this virus were a physical assailant, an unexpected and invisible mugger, which I can tell you from personal experience it is, then this is the moment when we have begun together to wrestle it to the floor. And so it follows that this is the moment of opportunity. This is the moment when we can press home our advantage. It is also the moment of maximum risk.
To those many, he said, would look at our apparent success and want their ancient freedoms back now, he had this message.
I refuse to throw away all the effort and the sacrifice of the British people, and to risk a second major outbreak and huge loss of life and the overwhelming of the NHS. To contain your impatience, because I believe we are coming now to the end of the first phase of this conflict.
So, as well as what they're doing at the moment, as well as what I've just mentioned about the tracking, they've also put in a few things in place. Now, take a look at the headline today. Basically, anyone who comes into this country, which we should have had, by the way, many countries had that way back when. But anyone who comes into the country as of when we open up, or maybe as from today, I'm not sure they've announced the date. I think it's just a proposal. However, it's a very smart move. But you go into a 2-week quarantine. I told you guys about China. You arrive in China, they don't care who you are, where you've come from, what business you got, you're on 2-week quarantine. So perfect, makes perfect sense. And last week I said to you guys that they were trying to achieve 100 tests a week. What they were actually trying to achieve, which even makes it more ridiculous to even think that they're going to achieve it, is they're actually trying to achieve 100,000 tests per day. I wish them luck. That is where we need to be. There is nothing wrong with aiming high. I believe in aiming high, because if you aim for 100,000 a week and you don't hit it in trying to meet it, you're probably going to hit 70, 80K, which are still quite high numbers. So I'm a firm believer in trying to aim for the skies. And if you don't hit the skies, at least you're going to hit past the clouds. So that's a fantastic thing. If they meet it, I don't think they'll meet it by the end of this month, but if they meet in the next couple of weeks, and it's an ongoing thing when this lockdown starts to open up, then I'm all for it. So that's the tracking. Now, what's it called? Singapore, and I mean, this tracking app, I wanted to tell you guys it's in existence. I just want to, because I'm worried about the fake news from my community, especially my black community. If you tell my black people, some of my black community, if you tell them that the government's going to be tracking your Bluetooth to make sure, they're going to think it's some form of a decoy to get them. And I'm very worried about that. So my appeal to my black neighbors, my black fellow citizens is this, okay? This policy is how China got out of it. If I told you, do me a favor actually, just to put your minds to rest, go to China and look at the COVID response. Find out how China, just for your own self, don't take anybody's messages and run with it. Do yourself a favor, okay? Have a look at how Singapore got rid of it. Now they're back. They're on a second wave because they got rid of it, then they opened too quickly, and now they're suffering a second wave, which is why it's so important how when you open up. But Singapore got rid of it the same way. China got rid of it the same way. South Korea got rid of it the same way. I'm going to show you a clip about Germany. They're putting in place to deal with it as well.
Now, to track people, are you doing that in Germany?
We are interested to introduce them, but we don't see this happening before March and June, because it has to be fitted into an overall contact tracing concept. And just to give you an idea, we will have to hire, we're in the process of hiring people at the level of the local health authorities, at district level here, that are able to do the contact tracing. And we think a ratio of roughly a team of 5 for 20,000 people is roughly what we have to come up with. That's a huge number. I give you an idea. I think it's about 650 teams only in the case of Bavaria, which is not easy. So the app by itself is an important factor in moving into that phase. But it has to be complemented by other measures as well.
And now, the way the Chinese did it is different from how South Korea and Singapore did it. Chinese, they did it because they're kind of like a surveillance state already. So they got the highest concentration of facial recognition cameras. So they went that path. So not just were they monitoring and know who you are straight away and all of that. So we're not going that route, basically, guys. If they try to do that here, oh my God, I can imagine what people would say over it. It's all the deep state. They're going to try and get you. They can switch you off and kill you and all of this stuff we'll be finding around there. But anyway, we're not going that route. We're going the Singapore route. Now, Singapore is a very free nation, very free country. Their people are free. South Korea, the same thing. They're a very free country. They're a lot more compliant than we are, but they're a very free country. They've got more freedoms over there than we have to a certain extent. So that's the way we're going. There's nothing to worry about, guys. This is a measure that has to be done. It has to be taken, okay, for this to happen. Now, new infections, like I said, need to be down to at least in the region of 1,000 a day before we're actually anywhere near being where we want to be. Now, as of today, the 27th, guys, our death toll that they're telling you, the official death toll is 20,732. My death toll, I mean, funny enough, on Andrew Marr's show yesterday, they were talking about doubling. So I'm putting 50% on that. An expert on Andrew Marr's show, a British fella on Andrew Marr's show yesterday, said the 20,000 we're claiming should be around 40. Now I'm saying around 30. So you can see that I'm just being nice. I could have done these numbers on 52% the whole time. Since I found out our numbers were 52% less. The question is still, why are we recording it that way? But that's another topic. We'll come back to visit that another day. So our death toll at the moment is at over 30,000. The US is at 55,000. Now tell me something. If your population is in a quarter of the world, why do you have a quarter of the world's cases? Just over 200,000 people have died in the world, like 207, round about that, people have died in the world. America has lost 55,500. I want to show you guys something, okay? I'm going to discuss this later, but look at this, okay? When I showed you guys recall me showing you that. If you watch my videos often, okay? This was on the 11th. That was on the 11th of April. If you look at the amount of deaths on this clip down here, 23,654 on the 11th of April. This, which I'm going to discuss later, but this this was as of the 21st, okay? As of the 21st, that number had gone to over 50,000. So it's okay to double when you're at 4,000. If you doubled at 4,000, you've only put on 4,000 more, right? When you double at 25,000, you put on 25,000 more. So to go from the 11th to the 21st, 11 days to add a whole, you had at that time 24,000 people. Within 11 days, the same amount had been put on top of that. That's what's going on in America, guys. Okay, it's terrible. So now I'm going to go to America. Obviously, you've heard, and this is the reason why we're all suffering at the moment, the fake news from that side of the world. You've heard, obviously, the news about Trump telling people they can drink, they can inject all kinds of disinfectants, even Dettol. He was saying you can inject. And he said something about, he was told about ultraviolet lights can kill it. And then I suggested, what if can we get ultraviolet lights into the body and that might save it? And he was proud of his ideas, his smart ideas. He's a very smart man. He tells you all the time, he's the smartest president we've ever had or we've ever seen. So great stuff. Anyway, let me show you some clips that's been passing around on the internet. Have a look at these.
To our viewers here in the United States and around the world, I'm Wolf Blitzer in the Situation Room. We're following breaking news. We're standing by for the White House Coronavirus Task Force briefing to begin. It should be rather lively today, just hours after a tweet from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention urging proper use of disinfectants. The message apparently prompted by President Trump's truly jaw-dropping suggestion at yesterday's briefing that disinfectant might be used internally to treat patients, and lying about it today, claiming he was simply being sarcastic. He wasn't being sarcastic yesterday, and another federal agency is now warning about two drugs often touted by Mr. Trump as potential coronavirus treatments. The FDA now says they can result in serious side effects and possibly even death. Meanwhile, Georgia and Oklahoma are allowing some businesses to reopen starting today, even as the number of cases continues to rise. I'll speak to the mayor of Atlanta in just a few moments. First, let's get straight to the White House. Our chief White House correspondent, Jim Acosta, is standing by. Jim, the president has repeatedly tried to downplay some of his most outrageous statements by claiming he was simply joking or being sarcastic.
That's right, Wolf. And as you just mentioned, the Centers for Disease Control posted a tweet today contradicting the president's suggestion that people could inject themselves with disinfectants, warning Americans in this tweet from the CDC, we can put this up on screen, that household cleaners and disinfectants can cause health problems when not used properly. That warning from the CDC. But President Trump is doing some damage control after suggesting that people could inject themselves with disinfectants to kill the coronavirus. The president is falsely claiming that he was just being sarcastic when he made those comments, but it's obvious from the video. Take a look at it for yourself. The president was not being sarcastic. Cleanup in the Oval Office. President Trump is finding it hard to explain away his dangerous suggestion that Americans could inject themselves with disinfectants as a cure for the coronavirus.
I was asking a very sarcastic question to the reporters in the room about disinfectant on the inside. That was done in the form of a sarcastic question to the reporters.
But the president is not telling the truth. Take a look at the video and the reaction on the face of coronavirus task force Dr. Deborah Birx when Mr. Trump made the suggestion. He's not being sarcastic.
And then I said, supposing you brought the light inside the body, which you can do either through the skin or in some other way. And I think you said you're going to test that too. Sounds interesting. Right, and then I see the disinfectant where it knocks it out in a minute, 1 minute. And is there a way we can do something like that by injection inside or almost a cleaning? Because you see it gets in the lungs and it does a tremendous number in the lungs. So it'd be interesting to check that. So that you're going to have to use medical doctors with, but it sounds interesting to me.
As for wanted to hide, it was a tough moment to watch. Dr. Birx wasn't buying it.
That is a treatment, but not as I've not seen heat.
I think it's a great thing to look at.
The head of the Food and Drug Administration tried to be diplomatic.
No, I certainly wouldn't recommend the internal ingestion of a disinfectant.
A statement from the maker of Lysol said, under no circumstance should our disinfectant products be administered into the human body. And Maryland's Emergency Management Agency tweeted the same, noting, we have received several calls regarding questions about disinfectant use in COVID-19. But there's another speed bump on the Trump traveling medicine show on the drugs the president has often touted as a cure.
What do you have to lose?
The FDA said in a statement hydroxychloroquine and chloroquine have not been shown to be safe and effective for treating or preventing COVID-19. They are being studied in clinical trials for COVID-19. Mr. Trump was asked about that too.
Well, I never spoke to a scientist. Look, I'm not a doctor. The study has to be done, and maybe it's help. If it helps, it's great. If it doesn't help, don't do it.
Ridiculous, isn't it? I want to show you this clip. I mean, if it wasn't so dangerous and sad that people will actually listen to this guy, it will be funny. If this is a comedy, you'd think, oh, come on, this is a comedy. We know this won't happen in real life. However, guys, it is. Have a look at his denials.
Of immunity to sort out what is fact, what is science, what is not. I know that Dr. Gupta is on there, and I so admire him. Of all the medical experts I see on TV, whenever he's on, I say to my wife, wait a minute, I want to hear what he says, because I trust him. But we have lost the trust of our president, Wolf. He is destroying our cognitive immunity, and in the process, that's going to lead to undermining our physical immunity.
As I've often said, Dr. Sanjay Gupta is a national treasure. And Sanjay, the American people are used to hearing exaggeration, boasts, even downright lies from the president, but it's very different when it's about crowd size, for example. This is a matter of life and death, isn't it?
It is, and can I just say thank you to both of you, and you know, the feeling's very mutual, as you know. It is a matter of life and death, and you know, I think that you know, sometimes when you're dealing with a novel coronavirus, there's a lot that we're learning along the way, and I think there's a humility that is necessary from the scientific community. I mean, we're used to saying based on 10 years of data or based on 20 years of data, we can't even say that number in weeks or days sometimes in terms of data. So there is a humility, but there are some things that we know, and there are some things that we know that aren't true as well. I think I was really struck by the fact that they were talking about these disinfectants and possibly ingesting or you know, injecting or ingesting these disinfectants, and it was said, well, look, why don't we just study it? And it was sort of presented as a very reasonable thing. I mean, why don't you just study it? that's crazy. I mean, just lunacy, because everyone knows that this is dangerous, and in order to study it, what you're suggesting is that you would knowingly give some people these disinfectants in their body and compare it to people who didn't get it. You would definitively harm people, and we know that. We don't need a study to show that. So I think what frightened me about it, beyond the obvious, which is that you shouldn't do this, is that somehow these things are sometimes presented as, reasonable. We'll just study it and get some answers. No. Dr. Hahn, who I have tremendous respect for. I mean, Dr. Hahn used to run the MD Anderson Cancer Center, which is a world-renowned cancer center. And he said on the town hall, and again, I say this with great respect, but he said, these are conversations that are happening between patients and doctors all the time. No, they're not. I don't think there's many patients who are going into their doctors saying, hey, I think it's a good idea to inject disinfectant into my body. What do you think, doctor? No, we have a certain fundamental level of knowledge that we should, pivot to.
This will be sad. Like I said, it would be funny if it wasn't sad. So now, what you have is, you have the state governor of Georgia, who's Republican, and you have different mayors of the city. Some of them are Democrats and some are Republican, depending on the city's demographics. So you have mayors who are keeping the shutdown in place in their cities, and you have a governor above who's opening up the state itself. And that's the battle that's going on, that's being fought right across the US, because of who's in charge of the country. People, let's resist that stuff coming over here. Let's not do this. And let me tell you guys something for nothing, right? We are reaching the national press. Do you know that? I firmly believe we are. Because if you guys remember, the first time I mentioned Jacinda Ardern, I promise you guys, on everything I hold dear, I'd never heard a member of the press or a journalist or a press association company ever say anything about this lady. However, you see, since I said that, I saw CNN say something about it. I've got a clip I can show you by someone else who said something. Take a look at this clip.
Think of what it takes to become a leader of a country as a woman. And, the kinds of qualities that these individuals have to have had in their lives to be able to navigate all the barriers that have existed. I mean, there's a reason that only 10% of the world's leaders are women when we're 50% of the world's population. So you're likely, if you've made it as a woman to become a head of state, you've got a set of qualities that are going to position you quite well, one would assume, for an emergency. One last word is just to think how those women are influencing also what women around the world associate with leadership. This combination of toughness and decisiveness, but also Jacinda Ardern and her compassion and the way she could speak to children and adults alike. I mean, that.
So basically, ever since I've bigged her up on my show, the press have all ran with it, okay? Now, even down to a lot of things that I mentioned. When I started to mention about coming out of Unlock and all the stuff that I was worried about, the press ran with it and started to bring it. I brought you guys that. They were a week and a half before me. Guess who else is now jumped on our bandwagon? Piers Racist Morgan. Yeah. The editor at large of the worst racist newspaper any country can have. I don't even know why we got them, the Daily Mail. He is as racist as they come. He counts Trump as a friend. But you know what? I've got to give him the props that he was able to come and tell the truth. But what else could he do? I mean, you saw the face on the doctor when Trump was turning to her. She put her face down. He's like, oh, God, do not call on me now. Not when you're saying this. So you'd really have to be a dumbass like those who are protesting on the street not to really stand up and say, come on. I mean, we've let you get away with all this stuff. Now this.
Thank you very much, Brian. It's good to be here.
You have been doing something remarkable, interviewing British politicians and leaders and lawmakers and health officials and holding their feet to the fire. And in some cases showing how many failures are happening, not just in the United States, but in the United Kingdom. What are the parallels right now between the U.S. and UK responses to the pandemic?
Well, I think they're very similar, actually, Brian, in the sense that you've got two populist leaders in Boris Johnson and Donald Trump. And all the tricks that they used to become popular and to win elections and to lead their countries are now being tested in a very different way. It's not about partisan politics anymore. It's about plain war crisis leadership. And it's a very different thing. And what I've noticed with both Boris Johnson and with Donald Trump is an apparent inability to segue into being war leaders. They're still playing the old games of party politics. And Donald Trump in particular, I've known him a long time. I consider him to be a friend. But I've been watching these daily briefings with mounting horror, frankly, because this is not what the president should be doing. And you won't want me saying this, but I'm going to say it anyway. The president of the United States right now is an incredibly important person in the world, and not least to Americans who are dying in their tens of thousands from a disease that we don't know much about yet. And all that's required from the president in those moments, and any world leader, frankly, is they've got to be calm, they've got to show authority, they have to be honest, they have to be accurate, entirely factual, to show empathy. And on almost every level of that, Donald Trump at the moment is failing the American people. He's turning these briefings into a self-aggrandizing, self-justifying, overly defensive, politically partisan, almost like a rally to him. Almost like what's more important is winning the election in November. No, it's not Donald Trump. What is more important right now is saving American lives. And I believe that the complacency that the American and British administrations showed in the first few weeks of this crisis has been extremely damaging to both countries' ability to deal with coronavirus. But it's not too late for them to now get a grip.
Apprentice, you won one of the seasons of The Celebrity Apprentice. You've interviewed the president repeatedly, and we showed some video from your sit-downs with him. Pretty much whenever he visits Great Britain, you're sitting down with him there. So given your relationship with him, what do you think has caused this reaction from the president, or these failures from the president?
I think it's just he thinks it's just another thing to deal with, rather than the most unprecedented crisis of our lifetime, the most unprecedented since World War II. It requires a different skill set. And the irony of this, if you look around the world, Brian, other world leaders who've really got on top of this and also won popular support, it's people like Jacinda Ardern in New Zealand, it's Chancellor Merkel in Germany, even Emmanuel Macron last week, I thought was very candid with the French people. He was very honest. He said, look, we don't really know when this will end. It's going to be very tough. He's implemented very tough lockdowns, but he also conceded he'd made mistakes. They've been too slow on personal protective equipment for health workers. They've been too slow in making it about yourself and making it about the American people and show that you care about them over yourself. You will win. And conversely, you will lose the election in November if you continue to make it about yourself, continue playing silly politics, continue targeting Democrat governors because that suits you for your electoral purposes. None of that matters. And until Donald Trump realizes that, and again, he doesn't want to hear this, but he may as well hear it from me. Until you realize that, Mr. President, you are not going to get this right. And if you don't get it right, more Americans are going to die.
Are you risking your friendship with the president by...
Same people, guys, that I mentioned to you guys when I started doing these videos. I mentioned to you guys, I told you guys about Germany. I told you guys about Jacinda Ardern. I told you guys about Trudeau. Then last week, I told you guys about France apologizing, right? That at least he came and said we got it wrong. Pierce said my words, word for word, guys. It's important that I let you guys know that we got credentials. It's important that I let you guys know that the platform you're watching is a solid one. I'm not going to discuss something I don't know about. And I'm not going to bring you fake information. And I'm going to tell you how I say it before the press are telling it. Because they have a habit of not challenging things. That's what walked us blindly into Brexit. Okay? So... this platform you're watching, guys, we are 1.5, 2 weeks ahead of the press. What we're discussing and what I'm calling to your attention on this platform, they don't start even looking into it for another week and a half. Maybe they've seen it, but some producer somewhere is probably locked onto my channel, because I've subscribed to a lot of those news channels, because this is a news channel, my new platform, my new Facebook page. I joined my Facebook page, which is Anthony Spencer, or the Full 100, okay, which is the page itself, and then you got the Facebook page, Anthony Spencer. So they're either listening or something, but either way, believe you me, what we do here is getting to the authorities, okay? Now, as you know, I started the petition as well last week. Give the earth a breather. I need your support, guys. Let this go out there. Let's not be fooled. This is not a one-day petition. I didn't think this petition will get discussed for at least a year and a half. I expect that petition to be out there for about a year and a half. It's a marathon. It's such a huge thing, but it's an important thing for us to at least discuss, which is why I decided to do it. So I'm not expecting victory at the end of this year or in 3 months' time. I'm expecting this to get to one parliament first, and then when another parliament around the world hears that the UK parliament maybe is discussing it, then they discuss it. And then once 2 or 3 are discussing it, then someone goes to the United Nations and discusses it. That's the way I see this rolling on. So keep an eye out for that, and please go out and support it. Now, I said I was going to show you a video about the US, about what some other bits and pieces that's going on in the US. So take a look. Guys, please remember the US death rate is at 55,500. So if you take the world, the globe, 1 in every 4 persons that's died is American. But yet America is not 1/4 of the world's population. If you put India, 1 billion, and China, 1.6 billion, if you put them together, that's about roughly, just, well, under, but roughly, you're kind of getting close to 1/4 of the world's population. America has no right having 1/4 of the deaths in the US. This is what I wanted to show you guys, okay? Now, if you recall, if you look at these 2 images, okay? When I showed you this original one in my right hand, okay? I showed this to you on the 11th of April. And I said to you, they're going to want to go, can you see those dots? I said to you, they're going to want to kind of go that way, coming downwards. But this is called the plateau, yeah? That's the peak. So they, rather than going this way and more depths, they sort of, with the measures they put in place, it sort of curved the peak, to a plateau. Now compare that to this. You can see that the plateau, okay, moved on, okay? You can see the plateau. So this is, let's put it correctly. So this end is this end, okay? Now this end is this end. So it went there, it was here on the 11th of April. You can see this is up to the 21st of April. So in 11 days, instead of doing that, and then coming down, it did that. It curved, okay? And then you see it started to come down on the curve. Now this, guys, is what we need to see in the UK before I'm comfortable. At the moment, we're still taking in 4,000 new cases a day. The only good news is I can bring to you guys is that as of Saturday, we had the lowest number. As of Sunday, we had the lowest number so far since the crisis actually took off, right? We had 400 deaths. 400, and we're celebrating that. Just think about it, guys, yeah? 400 different families, individuals, different friends, different Facebook groups that they're in. So 400 different groups of people have lost somebody, okay? But that was good news. And that was Sunday, because on Saturday it was 800. And then on Sunday, it went down to 400, okay? But we're still getting 4,000 new cases every day, guys. Guys, I want to finish off by really talking about what's coming along. with regards the new phase we're going to go into. Please look out for fake news, guys. And I'm telling those of you more prone to believing everything that you see. Actually, do you want to see some more fake news? What I want to say to you guys is this, guys, that we're going to get a new brand of fake news, because I believe the fake news that this is 5G, I believe that's sort of wearing thin now. I think more people are sort of waking up and saying, but if the 5G masks are still there, why are people now surviving and the death rate's going lower? They haven't removed them. This is my argument I keep giving to people. So anybody who stops for a minute thinks that. So I think it's sort of on the wane a little bit. But however, new ones are going to rise up. And that's what I'm warning you guys against with the title of this show, which is Fake News and its Destructive Capacity. They're going to bring new fake news, guys. And the new fake news is going to be around the Bluetooth, the tracking, and all of this. So don't say I didn't warn you, guys. You haven't heard any of it yet, have you? A friend of mine's asking me this morning, but I'm hearing this, they bring out vaccine, so what about the vaccine they're bringing out? Love, they haven't even flipping test, they haven't even trialed the treatment. They're trialing bits and pieces, because the treatment, remember, the treatment is how you get to make the vaccine. So first you have the treatment, and the elements of the treatment is what you put into making the vaccine, which then the treatment stops you and gets you over it, just like a treatment for flu gets you over the flu you're getting at that time. However, the injection or the vaccine to stop you from getting flu in this flu season will have some elements of that treatment inside it. Okay, so I mean, I have people already worrying about the vaccine. I'm guessing because they haven't heard about the tracking. So don't tell some of them. However, those who stumble upon it, this is for you. If you're prone to believe in bad news, fake news, I beg your pardon. Okay. Guys, it's a tracking method. It's there to help us. Don't switch off your phone because someone told you and kill more people. Okay. Because you're switching off your phone. If you think they're going to trap me, so I'm going to change my phone. You do that. They can't track where you've been, and they can't go further past you to save the lives that you've come in contact with, guys. So look out for the fake news that's going to be coming around this whole part of the whole situation. Okay, the unlock phase of this whole situation. They will come. They will put out the fake news. They will. And I'm giving you guys advance warning. Just keep your eyes open. Bear it in mind. And remember, it's fake news, mate. Okay. Now, let me finish today's session up by showing you guys something that should put the UK to shame, to be honest. Senegal. I've got a clip to show you guys. Take a look.
It's not just the Western world that has the scientific know-how to beat the virus. In Senegal, a laboratory has used its AIDS and Ebola experience to develop a $1 COVID-19 testing kit. Al Jazeera's Nicholas Hawk has more.
Senegal is doing what most countries can't, testing everyone, symptoms or not, entering a health center for the novel coronavirus. It has no shortage of testing kit thanks to this lab at the Institut Pasteur. Researchers are developing a $1 quick diagnostic kit, originally made to test for dengue fever. Patients drop blood or saliva onto the devices and wait for a bloodline to appear, like a pregnancy test, explains researcher Amadou Sall.
There is no need for a highly equipped lab. It's a simple test that can be done anywhere. The idea is to rapidly produce 2 to 4 million kits, not just for us, but for African countries, so that we can detect and isolate patients quickly.
The sick are administered a cheap anti-malarial drug called chloroquine, commonly found in sub-Saharan Africa where malaria is endemic. With only 50 ventilator machines for 16 million people, Senegalese engineers are using a 3D printing machine to produce more. While imported ventilators cost $16,000, this one is just $60. Senegal is counting the cost, and it's paying off. More than a month into the outbreak, the small West African nation suffered only 2 deaths, with most patients treated healed. Senegal has the largest rate of recovery in patients infected with the coronavirus in Africa, the 3rd in the world, ahead of countries like the United States and France. And while it has a tiny health budget compared to those countries, it has a wealth of experience in dealing with infectious diseases and outbreaks.
Right, so as you can see, guys, Senegal, little country Senegal, have invented their own test kit, which costs $1 a time. So they're supplying to the African nations. The same African nations that used to look to Britain for help now are looking to Senegal for help. The same Britain that used to help them, now we can't even get our own test kit sorted in time enough. I was celebrating the game changer test kits when I found out last week they're now ramping up. They now have invented a home test kit version of the test kit of the test, and I was happy about that because that's the game changer. To me, the home test kit is the game changer that quickens everything. It prevents them putting test sites at petrol stations, test sites at IKEA, test sites at train stations, tube stations, like I've been banging on for. The home test kit deletes all of that. There's no need for all of that. You just order one, and I hope they're not selling it to the people, by the way. So you order one, you get it, you test yourself. If you're all good, then you get a move on. If you're not, then obviously you report that, I'm sure, and then whatever necessary steps that you have to put yourself through, you have to go through. But Senegal, guys, they're testing tons of people. They are providing African nations with the test kit. The test kit only cost $1. They're that smart that they invented it for something completely different and now are using it for this situation. So guys, don't listen to people like Trump, who you saw the clips, guys. This whole debacle, this whole situation will be so different if only we had somebody different in the White House. Guys, as usual, let's pray for all those who have died. Let's pray for all those who are in hospitals so they can get better and come back out. Let's pray for our world leaders to do all the right thing. I'll even pray for Trump, as much as it turns my stomach to say those words. But I'm not praying for him personally. I hope he drinks whatever it is he's telling people to go and drink. I mean, you can see from the clip, you got people calling their doctors and saying, is this true? But what shocks me is, why would a grown-up do that? You know, just because you hear someone like him say something, really, you're gonna pick up your phone like you've lost all common sense? Now, those of you who are laughing at this, remember that's how I see it when someone tells me this is 5G. I see it like you've totally lost your common sense. Okay, so there are levels of this thing. You saw someone putting up, this is down to Obama, and then numbers added to 18, and they said this is COVID-19, wake up, open your eyes. They actually think they're the right ones. They think they're the ones who are smart. They're the ones who are correct. How do you argue with someone like that? I've ceased having these conversations with many people because, you know, if you can imagine, if this was your knowledge, if your knowledge was a container, yeah? If this was a container, this is your knowledge. So all of what you know is inside of this. How do you argue or have a proper conversation with somebody who their war chest of knowledge, their container of knowledge is in Lulu land, is in Loopy land? You can't have a proper conversation. I've tried it with many of my pals, many of the people I speak to. A piece of them wants to believe you. You come off the phone, you think they now seen the light, and then the very next hour, they send you another fake stuff to say, oh, I just got this. What do you think about this? Why would you be sending me that? You're only sending me that because even though we've just spoken, you've seen that and it's reiterated what you thought before we spoke. Clearly. So guys, we have an uphill battle with fake news. When all this is over, the topic of my show is all about fake news, about countering fake news. So when this is all over, guys, that's all I'm going to be dealing with, pointing out fake news, pointing out which governments are lying to you guys, and that's where we're going to take it. All right, guys? So take care of yourselves, look after each other, stay safe, keep informed, split away from fake news. Wherever you see it, cut it out. Social distancing with fake news. All right, guys? From me here at TFH, have a fantastic week ahead, and I'll see you guys soon. I should be doing a video tomorrow. At some point this week, I'm going to do one on prisoners. Yeah, I will do one on prisoners. They are the forgotten population. Many countries are remembering them. Iraq has released 54,000. Released 54,000. US are talking about releasing quite a few. Those serving under 18 months left. Even long-term people who've got under 18 months left to put them in house arrest. I don't hear our government saying anything about these people. They are human beings. So look out for that show. It's either going to be tomorrow, Tuesday, or Wednesday. Okay, guys? So thank you again for your time. And I look forward to speaking to you guys soon. Take care. Bye-bye.